Kimberly Chafee from Kimberly's Quilting and Sewing. Today we're going to make these great placemats using the book 6 Halves Make a Whole Lot More. Our fabrics are from Fig Tree Quilts by Moda, and we're going to find out together how easy the instructions are for this book. So it looks like the first thing it has us do is take our half-yard cut. We have 6 half-yard cuts, and we are to open them up, and we're going to make our cuts. I don't know about you, but I can be quite lazy, especially when there's a seam line from the fabric being folded on the bolt. So definitely make sure you go over, get out your best press, which this is our best press here, and heat up your iron nice and hot and press out that fold line. That will help make your cuts actually appropriate. So the first thing we're going to do is take off the selvage edge. Now that we've opened it up, the selvage edge is here at our end. So I'm going to make sure that this is lined up here at the bottom. And I usually take off about 1 inch. And we'll get them off to the side here. So they want us to make a 14.5 by 17.5 inch cut. So we're going to line that up there, line that up, and make our 14.5 by 17 inch cut. Make sure everything's nice and straight. And I am cutting through all 6 layers. I trust my rotary is nice and sharp, and I'm not concerned with having the fabric being sliced. And cut 3 2.5 inch wide strips. Now notice I'm not measuring off the mat. I'm actually measuring off of the ruler. Okay, so there's those 3. And I'll set this aside. And I'll get another 2 here. Part of the instructions have us mark our light and our dark fabrics so that when we start to put them into strips and cut, we have them lined up properly. So usually what I do is just take a Sharpie, and I'm going to label this according to the instructions A, C, and E, and this one B, D, and F. And I'll take them over to my sewing desk when I start to sew. That way I know what goes where when they tell me to put them in certain orders and the directions. So just a Sharpie. This is just scrap fabric and nothing to get too excited about. One of my favorite tools when I decide that I like to unsew my projects is the Seam Fix Seam Ripper. And I love this tool because it has a really cool thing when you're all done to pull all the threads out. And you probably have seen this. We sold them by the case at our shop. Make this a little easier on ourselves here. Because you know how when you seam rip you have all these little pain in the butt nubbies when you're done? Well, the cool thing is this has a rubber dauber at the end. And I'm just going to take that and rub that across my fabric, and like magic, all the little threads come out. I don't have to sit and pick at them, which helps if it's a day where the hands are just not cooperating. So I'm going to set that strip off to the side, and I'm going to do the same thing on this. I'm just going to use my dauber and pull all those strings out of the way. I love this tool. It is such a time saver, especially when you're unsewing. And of course you're always unsewing when you are trying to do something quickly, or it's the last piece of something and you've been thinking about other wonderful things, and voila. Okay, so we've sewn our strips together and we have pressed them in the direction, according to the directions, away from the centers and towards the centers, and however the directions told us to do that. So the directions were really good on that. And now what we're going to do is cut 5 of these strips by 2 1/4 inches. This edge here is uneven, so what I'm going to do is prior to cutting my 5 strips, I'm going to take that edge off like that. And then I'm going to proceed in measuring again off of my ruler, my 2 1/4 inches. Now, if you have a problem with your ruler slipping around on your cutting surface, one of the things that you can get to keep that from happening is a product called Tru Grip. And there it is right there. What it is are these little plastic circles. Actually, they're not plastic, they're more like silicone. And I'll turn that way. What you do is you peel them off and you stick them on the back of your ruler, and it keeps your ruler from sliding around. I really like those. There's so many in a package. I think there's like 15 in a package. But they really do help keep that ruler from sliding. I think I actually need to add a couple more to my ruler, but that's what they are, is the Tru Grips. So now that our strips are cut, we're going to go and sew them all back together. Now that we've had our block put together and pressed it, we're going to start putting on the sides so that our placemat actually has these corners on them. So in order to do that, the instructions tell us to take our triangles that we cut in the first part of our cutting, and we're going to take these and we're going to attach them down. So that's pretty simple. We're going to go ahead and do that on all our placemats. And when you read through the instructions, the pictures are really clearly written that this is supposed to be color C, this is supposed to be color A, or letter A. So I'm finding that everything is very detailed in the instructions, not leaving you to wonder what you're supposed to do next. So we're going to go ahead and get all our placemats to look like this, and we'll be right back. Okay, we are at the exciting part of our placemats project where we're going to put these great borders on. And it's actually a 2-step process that is incredibly simple. After I read through the instructions and understood what they were saying, which are, again, very well written, this part was extremely easy. So what we're going to do is, now that we have our sides on here, we're going to pull our rectangles from our first part of our cutting. And essentially what we're doing is putting this rectangle here, this rectangle here, this one here, this one here. So we're going to sew that down, and then I'll show you how to cut that and put on the second layer, and we're going to have these great placemats just about done. So stay tuned for our next step. So we have the first layer of borders on, and we've pressed them with our best press so they are nice and flat. And what we're going to do now is just follow the instructions to take our rotary cutter and slice across off these corners so that it starts becoming the shape that we want it to be. So this is very simple. We just lay our cutter down. We're going off of the angle here, and we're going to trim these away. I found these placemats to be really, really nice. The sewing squares together kind of gets, it's not something we always want to do, but it was fine. That part of things can get a little monotonous, but we go ahead and straighten that up. Whoops, sorry about the bump. And then at this point, everywhere we just made one of those cuts, we're going to lay down this outer border and sew that on here, here, and here. And then we're one step closer to being done. So we've put on our outer border, and the last part of getting this placemat finished is to take off these edges here. So I'm going to line my ruler up with this straight edge and make my cut. I'm going to flip this over to the other side. Cut again. And then the tips, I'm going to line up the bottom of my placemat along the bottom of my cutting mat. And what I want to do is make sure that I don't chop off my points here. Let's move that down. My points here. So I'm going to lay that down, and because we're going to be putting a flip, we're going to pillowcase edge this to measure about a ½ inch past that point. Make my cut. and repeat for the same side. Our placemat has its final borders on, and now it's time to layer up the placemat. So we're going to have the top with our piece of batting and our backing. This is a pillowcase finish seam, which means that we're going to start sewing around the outer edge, leave ourselves an opening, and then flip it right side out and press it down real good, and then do a top stitch around. When we're done doing that process, our placemats will be complete. And we like to use the 505 spray adhesive to go ahead and layer this and keep that in place. So we're going to give that a little spray. You don't need a whole lot of it. I'm going to lay that down, give it a good press, lay this one on top. I will throw a couple pins on this when I get over to the machine just so it stays in place. And we'll have how exciting our placemat has been sewn around the outer edge and is finished. I've given it a good press to make sure that it lays flat, and this is ready to give as a gift or to go on my kitchen table. We hope you sure have enjoyed our class today, and hope you enjoy making your project. We hope you really enjoyed our video today. Make sure you like and subscribe to get more videos from Kimberly's Quilting and Sewing.